Some U.S. sanctions against Iran that had been eased under the nuclear deal in 2015 are now back in place. Associated Press Washington correspondent Sagar Magani reports.
3 months after President Trump pulled the U.S. out of the nuclear accord, he's reimposed sanctions, targeting, among other things, transactions involving American dollars and Iran's automotive sector, with more sanctions to come in 3 months. The president tweets, "Anyone doing business with Iran will not be doing business with the United States," adding, "I am asking for world peace, nothing less." European allies are upset by the move, saying the nuclear accord was doing the job of limiting Iran's nuclear program. The EU has moved to protect European businesses from the sanctions.
On November 5th, the United States is due to resume sanctions against Iran's energy-related transactions, as well as business conducted by foreign financial institutions with the Central Bank of Iran.
The pressure is coming down hard on Iran. The Trump administration has imposed a first round of sanctions on the country after pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal in May. A second round is scheduled for November, including sanctions on Iran's oil sales. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the goal is to get Iran to change what Washington sees as its malign behavior.
Right now, the United States is undertaking a diplomatic and financial pressure campaign to cut off the funds that the regime uses to enrich itself and support death and destruction.
The Trump administration is betting the sanctions will lead to a better nuclear deal than the one achieved in 2015 under former President Barack Obama. At a recent rally in Missouri, President Trump said that he is open to new negotiations.
We're ready to make a real deal, not the deal that was done by the previous administration, which was a disaster.
Rouhani dismissed the notion in a televised speech Monday.
What's the meaning of negotiations when you impose sanctions at the same time? It's like someone pulling a knife to stab a rival or an enemy in the arm while at the same time claiming we should be talking and negotiating.
The new sanctions bar any transactions with Iran involving dollar banknotes, gold and other precious metals, aluminum, steel, commercial passenger aircraft, and coal. Steve Hanke, economist at the Johns Hopkins University, is skeptical that the sanctions will work.
Sanctions keep the regime in power, and the second thing they do is they make it very attractive for criminal mafias to make a lot of money through smuggling.
European allies are opposed. The European Union has implemented a measure barring EU companies from complying with U.S. sanctions and protecting them if they do business with Iran.
The blocking statute, once it enters into force at 6 a.m. Our time this morning, will allow EU operators to recover damages arising from U.S. extraterritorial sanctions from the persons causing them, and nullifies the effect in the EU of any foreign court rulings based on them.
Iran has repeatedly denied its nuclear program was aimed at developing weapons. The International Atomic Energy Agency says Iran is in compliance with the 2015 deal and that the agreement has allowed for greater verification of Iran's nuclear activities.
been lifted by Tehran's nuclear deal with world powers, the question on everyone's mind remained, what happens now? From deciphering President Donald Trump's tweets on Iran, including one demanding world peace, to trying to figure out how much their cratering currency is worth, Iranians appear divided on how to respond. The same goes for their theocratic government, which for now is abiding by the Atomic Accord. President Hassan Rouhani, a relative moderate whose administration struck the 2015 deal, has taken an increasingly confrontational line in recent weeks, applauded by hardliners who had long opposed him. Then in a speech on live television Monday night, Rouhani seemed to suggest that direct talks with Trump could be possible. That's something North Korean Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho, who visited Tehran on Tuesday and met with its leadership, knows firsthand. Whether Iran should choose a North Korea-style photo op with the American president who backed out of the nuclear deal or abandon the unraveling accord and increase its uranium enrichment remains a fiercely debated question in Iran. But everyone agrees something has to be done soon, as sporadic protests across the country of 80 million people only add to the pressure. In recent weeks, Iran has prominently displayed its centrifuges and threatened to resume enriching uranium at higher rates. At one point Rouhani renewed a long-standing Iranian threat to close off the Strait of Hormuz, through which a third of all oil traded by sea passes. Trump for his part has ricocheted between threats and promises to speak with Iranian officials without preconditions, offering mixed messages to both the Iranian public and its government. That continued Tuesday, as he described American actions in a tweet as the most biting sanctions ever imposed, and in November they ratchet up to yet another level. Anyone doing business with Iran will not be doing business with the United States, he wrote. I am asking for world peace, nothing less. John Bolton, the U.S. National Security Advisor, said the intent of sanctions is not to bring about Iranian regime change. But we definitely want to put maximum pressure on the government, and it's not just to come back to discuss fixing a deal that's basically not fixable, Bolton said Tuesday on Fox News. We want to see a much broader retreat by Iran from their support for international terrorism, their belligerent activity in the Middle East and their ballistic missile, nuclear-related program. Though Iranians already are angered by Trump putting their nation on his travel ban list, some say talks with the US president might be necessary. Others insist that Iran, which has weathered decades of previous